All right, time for an update. The rear subframe is mounted. It's bolted in and welded in to the reinforcement frame. So you need to do a little bit of work here for this bracket here. I made this cross beam removable because these beams, I didn't want it to get in the way if I decided to pull in and out the motor this way. Feel like I'd make it easier, but I need to then make these brackets really good. So gonna make underneath, side, so pretty much a U bracket that will just pop in, slide in. And so of course you can see the shocks are not in yet. Shocks, I need to position it, and for positioning it I am working on a rig or jig. Got inspired by that 240SX rebuild where he made a jig for everything, and he used that to position everything in all the frame parts he was welding in. So in this case, used the steering rack mounting points and the shock towers mounting points, and with that I should have the width as well as the height, and hopefully that works this way too. We'll see. If it doesn't, then I might have to add one more bolt underneath or add another mounting point. We'll see. Maybe the engine mount point. So we'll see. The idea is trying to get the shocks in the right position. I mean, worst case scenario, I can just make it adjustable and work on that out. But yeah, so pretty good progress. So with the subframe mounted, once I do the shocks, then I will move on next to mounting the engine. So we got one engine mount point already in the back. Probably another one over there. There's one on this side, but instead of running it all the way across this way, which takes up a lot of room, I'm probably gonna run it from the front here. So that way on this side, maybe I can fit something like the inverter. But yeah, that's the idea. And yeah, so you can see that suspension is definitely mounted. Lots of 1/4 inch steel. Gonna have to prime it and paint it at some point. For now, just anything that I can reach, then yeah, we'll see. Also on the side, looking into, I happen to still have the leaf controller ECU, and apparently the ECU, when turned on, according to the folks on DIY, they found is that it will automatically engage the parking brake if it isn't already engaged. And so what we can do is use that to turn on parking on the transmission for the motor. Main reason is because I'm using front brakes here, and front brakes don't have calipers that work with the e-brake, emergency brake. So currently I have no way to park. So did a bit of research trying to see maybe I could mount the Integra rear brakes on it. Integra rear brakes are about a lot shorter. So that means that the mounting points are different. So I mean, that is an option, but when I tried to buy the Integra brakes, no one has them in stock, or at least in calipers. No one has the left driver's side calipers in stock, so that's not going to work very well. And so I'm exploring two paths right now. One is to parking on the transmission. Pretty much works like an automatic transmission. Shift in the park, puts a parking pawl in, locks it in place. Car doesn't roll away. Yay. It's one option. So that will, as soon as I can figure out how to wire this up, I'll write up something for that. So that's one option. And I'm probably gonna do both because that does parking, and that I want to be able to run a emergency brake, because you're not gonna stick the parking pole in while you're driving and the brakes go out for some reason. Knock on wood. So I'm gonna try to integrate in a caliper that has the parking brake cable. But to do so, I need to put on a caliper and disc that matches. So Integra is not in stock, so I'm moved up a few generations because the Integra runs smaller anyways. So what if I went with a bigger brake, like maybe the Civics, the newer Civics with the rear disc brakes, like the El Sol 94s, maybe even as far as the EK generations in 95s or 97 to 2000. I know they have rear disc brakes. That means they have calipers. That means they have emergency brakes in the rear. So if they have emergency brakes in the rear and there's still a 4-lug pattern, because I believe up to year 2000 all the Hondas, Civics use the 4-lug pattern. It should match up with this. If it matches up with this, maybe I have to make some clearance around it, but and then probably the hardest part is this bracket here. This bracket may not match up, probably won't. So looking at the thickness, might need to fabricate a bracket to mount a bracket. It's about half an inch. It looks like about half an inch from this camera. I can't see from the side. Yeah, I have a half an inch thick. So if I can find, maybe I'll make a half-inch thick bracket and then mount it in, and then yeah, let's see. Might have to get a little creative, but I mean, people sometimes they sell brackets for brake swaps, conversion to upgrades. I know the Integra disc brake swap, one of the options was to get a bracket, specifically cut bracket that matches with the original OEM bracket, and that would bolt onto the original CRX rear end. So going with this route, yeah, I mean, if others can make it, I can probably make it too. It's just making sure it's really thick, really solid, because these are holding my brake calipers after all. So, I mean, just gonna have to find some really thick steel. And so that's option 2, and also something I want to pursue separately. Yeah. So 2 separate paths to ensure that the car stays in one place. As is, the schedule currently is take this, finish the jig, take it out, put it in the back, install the shocks, weld shock towers. Hopefully I can finish that today. Then mount the motor, fix up the motor mounts, because the current motor mounts that I use in front probably aren't going to fit. So something along that line. Some motor mounts, and then after the motor is mounted, or maybe before I mount the motor, once the shock towers are in, I will put on the wheels, drop the car, and weigh it. I want to see how heavy this car is, front and back, to see, well, might have to need some wheel chocks on that, but I need to see where I'm going to put the batteries, an inverter, or how I'm going to divide it. This is a lot of steel I added on. I guesstimated it about between 200 to 300. Some calculators online measure up the amount of metal, the thickness, and tubes and everything. Estimated about 230 pounds of additional weight from all this reinforced steel. I think it might go up to 300 depending on, well, we'll see. Not to mention there's some steel I still haven't added, like I'm gonna add some more plating across here to join these two better, top and bottom. Same thing over there. Some folks are suggesting I reinforce this joint here by adding a plate on the side to help reinforce the welds. Good idea. And what else? Yeah, so just, I mean, there's a lot going on here. So reinforce. I'm not sure how much It's probably better safe than sorry. I mean, but yeah, this car was pretty thin like to begin with. Look at the original frame steel. It's very, very thin. This is the primary tube that goes to the side. Let's see. Yeah, this one right here. Super thin. That used to hold the back. Front's probably about the same. I mean, you look at these, this is supposed to be structural, but it's so thin. This car is super light for a reason, right? So yeah, just, but then again, I'm putting a lot more power back here, so we'll see. Gotta play it safe, I guess. And of course, there's the, I need to clean that up. Rocker reinforcement. Car doesn't bend anymore. Well, car was already bent. Maybe it would be more appropriate. But yeah, that should be interesting. So yeah, that is the update. And back to work.